Ashley Scott, your favorite nonprofit grant writer guru. Today, I want to talk about the Rubik's Cube of cracking the code to grant writing, right? So often we try to figure out, where does this grant life cycle begin? Like, what is this like for folks that are applying for grants? Well, let me talk to you first about two different types of stakeholders in the process. Number one, we have a grantor, which is the person that actually creates the grant application for the grantees, which is you and I, the folks that are gonna apply for the grants and the folks that are seeking the grant dollars from the what? Right, grantor. Give yourselves a round of applause. Okay, so let's talk about how, as a grantee, do we start our grant life cycle process, okay? Oftentimes we think we just start it when we actually get the application. No, your grant life cycle process starts way before you actually get the grant, okay? First, we have to begin to do like a needs assessment, right? We have to think about, what are the needs in our community? We have to then look at that data, look at what other programs are doing, making sure we're not duplicating services, making sure that the idea is something that we have that we can develop. So did we develop our idea? That is what we first start in the grant life cycle. We've identified a barrier, which may be food insecurities, right? But what have we done to develop how we're going to address food insecurities, okay? So number two, then we have to find and research funding for the what? Food insecurity, right? Because that's the example that we're going to use today. So if we're thinking that, okay, we're looking for how we're gonna address this barrier, how we're gonna serve, how we're gonna feed, is it youth or is it elderly or is it the families in between? Where do we go, right? So we have to find and search for funding. And just to throw a little plug in there, Scott Consulting Group, which is approved and granted, we do help agencies find and seek funding for their ideas and their projects. In some cases, I have to remind you that some of these programs, they have to already be created and in existence, right? So we have to come up with some ways in which we're already doing these things so that it strengthens and make our proposals a little bit competitive. So, number three, then we have to complete the proposal process. So once we find and research funding, and then we've made sure that we meet the requirements for actually applying for that grant, then we go ahead and complete the proposal application process. Sometimes it may require you to submit a letter of intent. Other times it may require you to go to a Zoom meeting or attend a scheduled training ahead of time. We do those things before we actually submit our application, which brings us to cracking the code element number four. Number four is we are going to submit your application proposal, okay? We have to make sure that we build in enough time to submit your proposal on time and make sure that it has every single thing that it needs in place. Then, once we submit the application process, we wait. We have to wait. We wait to see if we were awarded the grant or if we were denied the grant. So, here's the thing. If we were denied, that doesn't mean that all is lost. We may be able to use this proposal for other, or pieces of this proposal for other grants that are out there. So don't just give up hope, okay? But it's also important for us to understand why we did not receive the application. So if there's a scoring sheet or a rubric, or reach out to that grantor to figure out what it is that we did differently. That is what we do. Now, If you're someone and you received the letter or the incredible congratulations, you've been awarded, okay, now this is where we continue the grant life cycle process, because it doesn't stop once we get awarded. It actually starts up a whole new chapter, which is complete the award and onboarding revisions process. So sometimes this is called like your negotiation phase, where if you're looking at your grant, or if you, the reviewer has, not the reviewer, but the grantor has questions for you, or they need you to adjust your budget, or something is a little bit off, or they need you to resubmit something. This is the time where you're actually able to complete some revisions ahead of time. Now, if you are a grantee and you're given this opportunity, make sure you look at that application one more time, because this is the easiest time to make changes to or to request changes from your grantor. Otherwise, sometimes it has to go back through this whole process with getting approved and going through routing in a chain of command, which can take a long time for you to do before you're able to access those changes. So complete the award onboarding process, do whatever revisions that they need. Make sure you ask questions, make sure you understand the contract that you're provided, that you understand what you have to do. So after we do that, we go to cracking the code element number 6, which is managing your actual award. Now we've completed the revisions. Now we've actually done everything you need. Now it's time for us to do what we said we were going to do. Okay, this is all a part of the grant life cycle process altogether. This is where we carry out, we said we were gonna address food insecurities. We address that this is how the technique in which we are gonna carry out this for our stakeholders. But then we move on into element number 7, which is complete reports. Some grants may require us to complete reports at the end. Some may require us to do mid-year assessments. Some require us to actually upload data every month, or as we submit deliverables or submit for our funding and things like that. So you have to go back and pay attention to your contract, which we talked about in cracking the code element number 5. You have to make sure that you know what that grantor needs, okay? Once we do that, we're completing our reports on the formats and templates or within the systems that they need us to do. We want to make sure that we're actually doing it in a timely fashion and that we're doing it on time, because these things can affect our funding. It can affect our ability to receive future funding, or our ability to actually access the dollars in a timely manner that we need. And lastly, we have to do the closeout report. So the grant life cycle also ends with closeout reports, which is once the money is done, usually there is a report or something that we have to submit or complete, whether it's the evaluation report or us completing certain specific surveys. These are things that we have to do to ensure that we were good fiscal stewards with the money in which our grantor provided to us. All right, so this is really long. This is a long process. However, know that you have a team, know that you have a source of help. If you received the grant and you got it, and now you're like, I have this funding and I don't even know how to make sure I put everything in the right place, or I assigned everything out properly, or I need help project managing. I can't hire someone long term, but I need someone to reach out to us. This is what Approved and Granted is here for. We're here to support all of our grantees, whether they're here within our local area or nationwide and abroad. We're here for you. So allow us to help you meet those meet those closeout reports, but also help you develop your initial idea. So thanks, grantees, for joining me today, and thanks for all our future grantees for joining me, because we want to make sure that you're represented and that you know everything you need to do before you actually start the grant life cycle. Okay, so thank you for cracking the code with me today. I look forward to you joining me on other episodes. Bye.